7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
International superstar, Miss Dolapo E.
You are now tuned in to Butterby Rocker on Transparency Talks Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Transparency Talks Podcast. I am your girl, Butterby Rocker. I'm super excited about today. We are talking to film producer, Dolapo Erinkitola. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm very excited to be speaking with you.
Likewise.
So I like to dive right on in. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm a Nigerian guy, both parents Nigerian, and grew up in Chicago, live in Atlanta now. I do movies. I produce movies, and I try to support the arts in general. So I do manage a lot of artists that are doing well, as well as trying to create platforms for up and coming artists to kind of showcase their creativity.
Awesome. Well, we on the whole vibe because everything that you just said you do is what I do. So that's
Hey,
really
okay.
That's
Hey.
really good. All right. So before we get into your filming and your music side of it, you have like a million degrees. A million. And I really do mean that. You attended Morehouse College, Kennesaw State University, Howard University, Walden University. You have a PhD in leadership and organizational change,
Mm-hmm.
2 master's degrees in healthcare management and business management, 2 bachelor's degrees in business management and computer science. As an entrepreneur, why do you think education is so important to still have?
I think so. And correction, no, I love Howard, but it's Harvard.
Oh, I'm sorry, Harvard. I apologize.
But I love my HBCUs. I'm a Morehouse student as well. To answer your question, I think it's knowledge. I think you're always a life student, right? So you're always learning, especially if you're going from industry to industry. You've got to be open-minded to know that you don't know everything, and being a student, and being willing to learn it's something new, and not being of the mindset that, oh, I've been successful in this area, so I know everything. No, that's not how it works. So being under the practice of always being a student, which is something that my whole family stressed, my parents stressed. I think that it serves you well in whatever business you're going to do.
Okay. Well, I will say that healthcare, leadership, computer science, business management are all total different, areas, especially the healthcare. I can see the business management, and the organizational and leadership one, but those are all totally different, areas. What made you go from healthcare to computer science?
I think, I was in computer science first, and I was doing well in computer science, and, the industry just started changing. And I said to myself, I wanted to reinvent myself. So I said, go back to school. And I went back to school, and I got into healthcare, and I just said, you got to be of the mindset that there's really nothing you can't do. Decide what you're going to do and just put in the work. And that's what I decided to do, even though they weren't connected. Just knowing that you can go out there and learn something new was the whole thing. So it was exciting. Like you learn something new, or you got a new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be. It's exciting at the beginning, and if you keep that energy going, you can kind of get through it. And so I took that same approach.
You like challenging yourself, I see.
Yeah, yeah, that's always a good thing.
I actually have a degree in computer information systems, but then jumped into marketing and PR and then music. Well, I've been doing music forever, but
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah. All right. So when did you decide or know that filming was something that you wanted to do?
I didn't necessarily decide. I kind of fell into it. When I was younger, I was acting, and back in Chicago, I did a couple of stage plays where where I did very well, and I thought I was going to be the next big actor. And my parents kind of, they said, "No, you're not doing that. You got to go to college." And so I kind of let that whole energy of being in the film industry on the shelf. And then later on, down the line in life, I just it presented itself again through the love of just the love um, of myself, and also just wanted to do something different, and also in love. I decided to kind of get into this industry and do something that I really want to do.
Okay. Did you decide to go into school or learn learn any did you go to school or did you go to some type of classes to learn production?
I didn't, and what I did was I learned on the go.
Hmm.
I tried to be a really good student. I surrounded myself with people who know a lot more than me. People who've been doing this a long time, and I asked a lot of questions. And that was my master's class, just hanging around them, asking questions, making some mistakes, but you know, just having an open mind to ask those questions and not assuming that I knew everything.
Hmm.
That I mean, honestly, that was the best thing that I ever did. Um, because business is business, and there's two sides to the industry. There's the creative side, where you have the talent, you have the writers, you have the director, and then you have the business side, where you have the executive producers, and they're trying to put the whole project together, make sure it stays on the budget, make sure that you get the right people involved. And if you really think about it, that model works in whatever industry you're in, the business model itself.
Hmm.
So, and that's the kind of seat that I'm sitting in. I'm more in the business side of it. And so I think if you do good business, I mean, hell, you can go into any industry, almost any industry, and, apply those same, practices and do well.
Hmm. So you're also in the music industry, managing different artists and everything. Those are two separate worlds, filming and music. I came from the music world. I've been an international recording artist all my life, it seems
Yeah,
like.
yeah, me
And
too.
then I jumped into the filming industry during COVID,
Hmm.
wholeheartedly or whatever. So, with you mixing the two, which one has your heart?
Wow, that's a tough question, because I'm a lover of music. I mean,
Yeah.
music is just it's very special to me. I was a mama's boy, and that was our time. We would always listen to the songs together, and that was my time with my mom. So I've always been into music, and growing up in Chicago, I was a house head. I was a DJ. While I was in Morehouse, hell, I DJed. When I was in Kennesaw, I DJed. So I have a special affinity to music. But what's beautiful about film is that you can create something visually, but also you can marry the music in there, right? So for example, one of my current projects is called Waterboyz, and it's got this is a shameless plug, so don't hate me for it. But with Waterboyz, it's about the story of the kids running up to your car trying to sell you water.
Hmm.
And in Atlanta, it's a thing, and a lot of the major cities it's a thing. And you've got these young kids trying to be entrepreneurs, and they're selling, they're hustling, they're selling water. Some do it bad, so some of them got a bad rap, but some of them are doing it good. And in this movie, I've got like Quavo in it, I've got Lala, I've got Dorsey in it, Rockman. I've got a bunch of really good people, and shout out to the director and writer Coke Daniels. But the film is supported by quality control, and quality control is the biggest thing in music right now. They locking down everybody, and with their partnership, it was easy to kind of create a film and also insert really good music that really reflects Atlanta, reflects the kids and what they're doing in their entrepreneurship. So if you really look, to answer your question the long way, if you really look, there are opportunities to marry music with film, and vice versa. And if you get the right projects, it's a beautiful marriage.
I will say that I definitely took that opportunity with my own film
Mm-hmm.
that I featured in. Not only did I perform in the film, but of course I got my music all up in it.
That's how you have to do it. And you're not supposed to wait. You're supposed to create your own thing. And if you got a good vision on anything, and you have other parts to it, don't be afraid to say, "Oh, I can do this too," because people, I shouldn't say people, but sometimes we get convinced that we can only do one good thing.
Yeah.
No, we can do several good things, and we can bring them all together. So I like the fact that you did that. You got to showcase your music, especially if you have a platform of putting together a feature film, and let the world know what you can do.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, I don't want to get on me, but I want to get on
Hey,
you.
we will stay on you. Just come on.
All right. So, is it safe to say that in your film Waterboyz, you had some of your artists?
Yes. So, shout out to my artist, Cyrus the Shield. He's going to create a song for the film. Cyrus is currently doing spot openings for Music Soul Child right now throughout the U.S. And he's a Grammy nominated artist, and in fact, he's got a new project out right now. So having those opportunities to kind of showcase some of the artists that I work with is very exciting. So yeah, so we were able to influence, some of the soundtrack. But like I said, quality control, they've got their own vision for it. But we were able to get a couple of slots for my artists.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Do I want to talk music? Do I want to talk film? I think I'm going to do both. All right. So we're going to start back with music. When you are working with your artists, how do you determine who you want to work with? Because you do management.
Yeah. So that's kind of tough because, you know, it's not always the best singers that make it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm it is so true. It's not always the best singers that make it. It has a little bit to do with your faith and your belief.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe in yourself, it has a lot to do with timing, and it has a lot to do with the village that you surround yourself with. And you got to take all of those in consideration. You can't just be a good singer and not promote yourself or not believe in yourself, and all of those things factor in. So when I decide on who I'm going to work with, I look at, one, is the person a good person? Because I don't want to deal with mess. I got to have somebody who has a good heart, not somebody who thinks that they can't learn or listen or grow. If they already think that they're there, then I'm not the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who is open-minded to try different things. Because if you knew everything, you wouldn't be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd be pushing. So I like people who have an open mind and who have a good heart. And then obviously, I look at it like visual art, right? Or just like a song. I listen to the music and you like what you like. If I listen to it and I like it, then I'm like, okay, I can go in. If I listen to it and I don't like the style and the music, I don't care what people are saying. It's not for me because I'm gonna be fake.
Hmm.
Everybody's saying the song is hot, but I can't hear it. Then I don't jump on board.
Okay. So having a manager, being an artist, that's like a marriage, right?
Mhm.
Y'all both for trusting each other to really hone into what we call ourselves, which is our babies, our music, right? How do you handle conflict with your artist if you are feeling one vibe and they're feeling another?
And that's a really good question because if we're being truthful, there has to be a healthy friction between the business side and the creative side in anything. Meaning my artist can say, hey, I want to do this song and I think this is what it is, and let's do this and let's shoot this video. And that's the creative side, right? And then from the business side, I might say, hey, listen, the timing is wrong. You've got this out. You need to consider this. So there should be healthy friction, healthy conversation. If one side is always acquiescing to the other, you're not going to get anywhere. You got to be able to have those tough conversations in the room and decide what direction you're going to go in. The biggest thing is when you have those differences, um, it goes back to what you said earlier, the trust. You got to trust each other. So at some point in time, you identify what direction, and if we're going to go lean towards more of the creative direction in a particular decision, then I've got to trust my artist to say, okay, at least I told you the exposure. You want to do it this way, let's grind. Or, vice versa. If I say, hey, from a business perspective, you're going to do it this way, and he has to understand why we're doing it, and trust me that I have his best interest. And I will warn any artist out there, if your manager is all about the money, then then you're going to have more arguments than you know. But if you have a manager or a team that is more about you personally than the money will come.
Hmm.
But if it's a money grab, that's not going to be a long relationship. And I've seen it so many times in this industry, and I'm not hating on anybody. Everybody's got their own style. I'm just telling you what I like to do and what I'm used to.
Okay. And let's jump over to the film side. I'm going to assume it's probably the same, but when you're a producer, so you get film writers and directors that come to you saying, hey, I have a project.
Hmm.
You have to determine if you're filling that project.
Yep.
Okay. And then once you determine that you're filling the project, tell me the process of how y'all work it out.
Well, I've got to have you know the right people around me. Like I said, I've got a business partner. Her name is Jennifer Pasima, and she's a good barometer to kind of keep me level-headed. And you know, it's similar, but it's different because for the movie, I look at who's in it, right? What's the talent doing? Because my job is to make sure that one, we can sell the movie,
Hmm.
and the movie makes money, right? You don't want a expensive home video that you're only showing to people that come to the house. You want the world to see it. So you've got to understand the mandates from the networks because each year the networks will tell you what they're looking for. So you don't have to guess. They'll tell you, hey, we're into horror films, or we want this, or we want that. Whatever that mandate is you try to understand it. Then you read the script. You see if it falls in one of those categories. Then you find out you understand the talent, and if people are in the film industry and they're honest with themselves, they'll know that each talent really has a dollar amount associated with them. Meaning, if I go to a studio and I say I have Denzel Washington associated with a project, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars.
Hmm.
But if I have this new unknown actress on the project, they're going to be like, okay, I may or may not. So there's a number associated with the talent, and you have to understand that process. And once, from a business perspective, you consider all those things, and then at that point you determine whether or not it's for you. And again, the last thing is doing business with the right kind of people who have good hearts. If it's a money grab, or it's people who don't really care about, everybody on the project, meaning everybody from PAs all the way to the director, then they're probably not for me, because I want to make sure that whoever's on my project is getting paid, paid on time. It's a good experience. We treating them right, and I think that's how you play the long game.
As a producer doesn't technically have to be on set. Are you a producer that's hands-on and like to come to sets?
Yeah, I'm on set all the time. I'm on set all the time, and making sure that the money's flowing right, that there's a good vibe and a good experience on set, that the artists are getting what they need to, and we're moving the way we need to for the project, because there's always the three things that you got to look at: content, time, and money. So you got to make sure the content, they're telling the story the right way, that we're shooting on schedule, and that we're not we're not going over budget.
Definitely. How do you handle conflict on set? Because again, the producer doesn't have to be on set. The director is typically the person that is in charge on a set. If you see a conflict as the producer, who do you talk to and how do you handle it?
Well, it's good to understand the hierarchy, right? The hierarchy really is the executive producer.
Right.
Then you've got some would argue the director, producer, and so on and so on. So when the executive producer walks on, that's who's really making the changes or giving direction. From an artistic standpoint, is the director. But from an overall project, it has to be the executive producer. Okay. So resolving conflict is, talking to the right department head or the right people on the project. And if there's something that's off, I'm going to pull the producer and the director into a room, and we're going to have that conversation to say, okay, what's going on? How can we fix it? And move on from there. But make no mistake about it, everything lies on the executive producer, because
absolutely,
that, hey, if we're not doing what we need to do, the project is not going anywhere.
Right. So all your projects, you are the executive producer.
I'm the executive producer. Some I produce. So for the most part, executive producer or producer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see what else I want to know from you. What has been your challenge going into the filming industry?
The biggest challenge going into the film industry is understanding that how the film industry does business. It's a little different from working in corporate. It's a lot different from working in corporate America. Corporate America, there's a structure. There's someone really to be accountable to, right? So if you're in corporate America and you don't do what you need to do, somebody's calling HR. Or you've got some people. There's paperwork and meetings and stuff like that. In the film industry, it's a little different because everybody is almost like an independent contractor, right? So the talent is an independent contractor, even though they have their lawyers and their managers. If they don't want to do something, they don't have to do it. And the same with the crew or this or that. If you're dealing with the writer, it's typically not a corporation. You're dealing with someone directly. So that has been very difficult, because when you're dealing with someone who's independent like that, you have to consider emotion. And there's no one to check that. And that's why the film industry is very, very unique and different in my eyes, because they can say, well, I don't want to do it. And there's no HR meeting, there's no, and now you're dealing with ego and someone saying, because they're mad, they want to take their basketball home and they don't want to play anymore. And you've got to be ready for that, because that's what this industry is: a bunch of small corporations coming together to make a project, and a corporation can walk away at any time because, I mean, because they want to.
Hmm.
That's been the biggest challenge.
Okay. So between going on set, in meetings or rehearsals, going to shows, or you in the studio, how do you balance your personal life from all of this business?
Well, I try to balance it. And I try to stay focused. I also own some restaurants in Atlanta, so shameless plug again. Blue Lagoon Bar and Bistro in Buckhead, and Havana Lounge in Sandy Springs. And I spent a lot of my time in between those two locations. Very proud of the establishments that I created. For Blue Lagoon, I opened that with two of my partners, Tony and Joe. I got to give them a shout out. And then the Havana Lounge, I'm a co-owner with my brother Ade, and I think we've created something special there in Sandy Springs. So a lot of my time is taken up with that.
I want to say I just went to the Havana Lounge.
Hmm. It's a nice spot.
Yeah,
Very sexy.
yeah,
Very sexy.
yeah. I want to say like last week for the
Did you
first
have a good
time.
time?
Huh?
Did you have a good time?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was nice. All right. So, what upcoming projects do you have coming up?
You mentioned Waterboyz. I've got today actually is the release of Scheme Queens, which is a movie about an all-black cast that is all female cast rather, and it's in the vein of Set It Off. So we
Okay.
haven't had something like that in a minute. So I think people are really going to enjoy that. So if you go to schemequeens.com, we're doing a virtual theatrical release, and then after that, BET has bought it. So next year, you're going to see it on BET. This year, also this month, we are doing the release of The Sounds of Christmas, which shows Neo and Drea and Sanaya. It's a really good Christmas movie. BET has also purchased that, and it's going to kick off their holiday Christmas movies. Um, I've got this movie called John Gabbana, I Am John Gabbana, which is really a heartwarming documentary. Right now, we're looking for a home for it, but it's really, really good. We had a premiere back in August, and there wasn't, when I tell you there wasn't a dry eye in the movie theater, it was just really a good project. And I've got a few others that's coming out. Currently, I'm shooting about to shoot a a project. It's a horror film, and we're shooting that. We're in pre-production right now, but we're shooting that in January. I'm really excited about that.
Cool. Cool. So it sounds like you do a lot of genres of filming, which
Yeah,
is cool.
yeah. It's just like music, man. I don't. Good music is good music. Hell, if
Yeah.
there's a good country song, I'm gonna say I like it. I'm not afraid to do that.
Yeah.
And films are the same way. I go across genres. If it's good, it's good.
I agree. I
Yeah.
used to tour over in Addis Ababa, and when
Okay.
I came back with my first album. It was more worldly than people, thought it should be, because I'm from Atlanta, and you think it's my music's supposed to be one way, but I had to switch it up because I feel music just in general, so I feel it.
Yeah.
I have another question for you.
Mhm.
So you just mentioned BET on I think two of your projects that you just sold to.
Yep.
Do you prefer selling your projects, or do you prefer leasing the projects?
I really advocate for filmmakers to license their projects and
Mm,
maintain ownership, um, because that's really where the game is.
right.
And when I say, they purchased it, I mean that they leased it, and they leased it for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So thank you for that clarification, because I think that you do have to have ownership. And a lot of these platforms, they'll do a deal for you know 10 years, 15 years, or something like that. But the beautiful thing is that time goes by so fast. I mean, you look at shows like Friday or The Best Man. The Best Man has been what, 30 years ago?
Hmm.
And even if they had I don't know, the details, but for this example, let's just say, you gave away 15 years, you still had 15 more years of, reselling it and continuing to make money. And we have to be in that mindset of perpetuity,
Hmm.
so getting our our points or our checks in perpetuity is always important, and you can only do that if you own it.
Yeah, I am. As I had told you before we started, I just did my first feature film. It's a rom com, and I have a connect with Netflix that's definitely interested in it. But then I'm
Yeah,
hearing other people say, no, I need to go to these companies to do the subscriptions and everything, and just lease it because I have more control over it. So trying to determine that, because with Netflix, they would want to hold on to it for at least 5 or 6 years, and then I wouldn't be able to do anything else with it. Whereas if I go to some of these places that host subscriptions, I'll be able to bounce it around to multiple locations
hmm
and everything. So, as a first time filmmaker, what do you recommend? Do you go to a company that will hold it for 6 years and that be it, or do you lease it to multiple places and have a little bit more range?
I would say one, it depends on the deal,
Mm.
because some people will write, some platforms will write a big check and say, hey, I want to keep it for 10 years. And you do the math, you're like, okay, it's worth it. I get it back in 10 years. Like I just mentioned, 10 years goes by like this when it comes to film. But as relates to the sell model, to me, the sell model means anything is possible. So
Mm.
you can marry um, doing a exclusive and a non-exclusive deal. So, for example, you can do an exclusive deal. I'm just making this up. So, let's say you do a platform that says, for the first 6 months, I want it exclusive. I want the premiere, and then I want to keep it for 6 months, but I still have it. I'm still licensing it for, let's say, 10 years, but for the first 6 months, I want it exclusive.
Mm.
That's a good deal, because now after 6 months, you could take that same project and you can now give it to
Yeah.
everybody else. So you're making money on both sides of the table. So I would suggest that you look at all the options. And if, like, let's say Netflix they're one of the ones that really like to be exclusive.
Yeah.
But if you can negotiate an exclusive deal for a portion of the time and then go back and do non-exclusive, then yeah, you win it.
Okay. Well, final question, how can people meet you or, get in contact with you?
Yeah, stop by any of my spots. I'm always at my restaurants. Remember, Blue Lagoon Bar and Bistro in Buckhead, or Havana Lounge in Sandy Springs. But my handle is official Dolapo E on all the social media platforms. Official Dolapo E. Official Dolapo E. And I'm new to Instagram, so be nice. I'm new to it, so I'm just learning. I'm learning.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank you so much for being a part of Transparency Talks podcast. And with that, everybody, we